Good afternoon and welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me. Well, the transfer rumour mill carries on, doesn't it? You know, a week in the transfer window is quite a long time in this day and age. Depending on which way the wind blows, could determine the fate of a transfer story one way or another. We've been linked to so many players, as you all know, during this summer transfer window alone, that it's really confusing to know what is and isn't a true link and what is and isn't a true story. Social media, ITKs, or the journalists, they don't help really, because one minute they give you breaking news about a player that we're going to have interest in. Next minute, they're telling us that we're negotiating. Next minute, they're telling us that an offer has been made. Next minute, they're telling us that an offer has been accepted. And then we're in the final throes of negotiating terms, etc. And then just like that, none of it's true. So this week has been no different, really. It seems that aside from a left back that we all feel is pretty urgent for the club, we seem to have narrowed our transfer targets down to probably four key players. They are of course, Amadou Onana of Lille, Gianluca Scamacca, as I'm told, of Sassuolo, or Amanda Broja of Chelsea, or of course, free agent Jesse Lingard. I know, you all sigh, but unfortunately, them's the stories. Now, if it's a big if that all four players would actually come to West Ham United. For me, you know, having two strikers, Scamacca and Broja, seems quite interesting. You know, I mean, we would be pinching ourselves, wouldn't we? I mean, let alone having two. If Moyes manages to get one through the door, I think that would be great news, wouldn't it? I'm going to try and bring you up to date on what the latest rumours are on these four players in particular, and sort of go through them one by one. So let's start off at the back, because Amadou Onana, from what we now understand, the latest bid, the third bid for this player, has been put in, where we've offered £32.5 million for the player. And after Lille rejecting the first two offers, they're rumoured to be seriously interested in this £32.5 million offer. Okay, that's great. Look, the player, he's a decent player. He's been at Lille for one season. He's certainly drawn an awful lot of interest from clubs around Europe. He's a player that I've spoken about before, where he's sort of come through the ranks at Hamburg. He went down a league in the Bundesliga. He made a name for himself at Hamburg. He got noticed by Lille, got picked up for around £7.5 million, and he's had one season at Lille so far. Now, we've come in with a bid, and as I said, the first two bids were rejected. And Lille have put a price band on this player of around £50 million. Look, as I've said before, we've done the same with Declan. We've said 150 million in order to stop clubs from making a bid. But that hasn't stopped us. It seems that David Moyes is most definitely interested in this player. He really wants to sign him. And apparently the £32.5 million offer with add-ons, bringing it to maybe £37, £38 million, gets it a little bit closer to the 50 million. But we all know they're not going to get 50 million. Look, with Declan and Souček in midfield and the recently acquired Flynn Downs, why do we need Onana? What would be the value of bringing him to the club? Well, two main reasons, I guess. The first, I think, is if we do acquire Onana, I expect Souček to be sold fairly imminently after Onana arrives. There's been an awful lot of talk about Souček, and even I've said that I don't think Souček will be sold. I didn't understand why we would do that. But if we do buy Onana for, say, I don't know, let's say we agree, you know, a total package of 37, 38 million pounds, and if we sell Souček for, say, near on 30, that sort of it's almost like for like, isn't it, in terms of value? All right, we pay about £8 million more, but we get a younger player, 7 years younger. We get a player that's up and coming, etc. And many would argue would be a much better option than what we currently have with Souček. But are there differences? Well, let's just have a look at the slides for a second and see how much difference there is. Look. Souček, much more experienced player, played 290 senior games in his whole career, whereas Onana, senior games, he's only played 67, Hamburg and Lille. So he's inexperienced in that respect. He's got quite a lot of ground to make up on Souček in that respect. You know, Souček, for a player that's defensively minded, 59 goals in his senior career, Onana only 6. 18 assists for Souček, only 1 for Onana. And injury-wise, you know, both players in their careers don't really have a lot of injuries at all. Last season alone, Souček played 10 more games than Onana, but Onana scored only 3 goals less than Souček, 1 assist each, and no injuries to each player. So you could see, you know, Onana up and coming, you know, even though he's got 7 years the younger, pretty decent stats. When you sort of try and hone this down on sort of particular stats, you start to see a little bit of a difference. Shot accuracy, for example, 37% for Souček, whereas Onana's got an impressive 46%. Pass accuracy, much better for Onana again. Aerial duel success goes to Onana. Ground duel success, Onana again. Take-on successes, the same. Ball recoveries, Souček is better at that. But possession lost, 390 possession lost over last season alone, whereas Onana only lost possession about 140 times. But Souček has got the much better stats when it comes to defensive duties, better on clearances, better on interceptions, and better on blocks. So what's the difference in style of play? Look, we all know about Souček, extremely decent goal scoring record for a defensive-minded midfielder, more naturally suited to defensive midfield duties, willing to go forward and be a box-to-box midfielder. He runs into dangerous attacking areas. Usually his timing of his runs are difficult to defend against. He's not an aggressive player, but he uses his physical ability to sort of shield the ball, gets in front of the player in order to sort of poke the ball away. And he's got aerial threat as well. But with Onana, he's 2-footed. He can also play as a centre-back as well as a central defensive midfielder. And he can play on the right or the left side of centre-back. Not that we need centre-backs at the moment with so many players that we bought recently or the players that we have at the moment as well. Solid defensive awareness duties, excellent in the air. He's comfortable at shielding the ball as well. In front of a back 4 or a back 3, his natural sort of ability to sort of shield his defense is really good. He's deployed as a central midfielder to build up the play. Lille have utilized him in that way, and Hamburg before to great effect. You know, he picks up the ball from deep, and he's got the ability to run forward, and he's got quite a lot of pace on him as well. And he's got good dribbling skills for a defensive midfielder too. Very calm, very composed, excellent pace, like I said, able to carry the ball forward. And you could see that Onana, despite the fact that he's slightly 7 years the younger of Souček, he's got some good abilities there. So will it be Onana or will it be Souček? I think it sounds like, even though I think we're still negotiating for Onana, but we also hear, of course, well, you know, Liverpool are in the mix. Look, of course, Lille are going to want a bidding war to go on, aren't they? If they value their player higher, they're going to want to have another team to come in and bid for the player and maybe have a bidding war. I've got a feeling that this is probably a rumor rather than any reality. Of course, Liverpool are likely to want a player of his stature. But what Liverpool want to do is they want to bring a player like Onana in to be competition for Fabinho and Jordan Henderson. Now, I've got a feeling that Onana's going to want to rather start a game rather than sort of be a bench player and maybe come on, you know, on occasion to fill the role in central midfield. Whereas with West Ham United, you know he's going to get game time. You know, if we get Onana, it looks quite possible that he will be a starter alongside Declan. That will be quite a formidable formation. So I think we'll just have to wait and see on that, won't we? And see where the land lies. Next up is, of course, Amanda Broja. I mean, come on. What next? You know, 1 minute we're in bids, 1 minute a bid has been accepted, next minute no bid has been made, next minute Tuchel's sort of being a bit sort of, you know, standoffish about the player, and next minute he's talking about the player making an impact. From what we now hear, it looks like we might be bringing Broja in on a loan deal. Do you know what? To be quite honest with you, I wouldn't mind that. I'm still not convinced by Broja, to be quite honest. And maybe a lot of fans are. But for me, he's had one season with Southampton, albeit decent. But as a lot of people have said, he tailed off at the end of last season and he didn't score a goal. I think one of the last goals he scored was against us in the Cup. And then he tailed off. Scamacca, we don't know what's going on there. You know, I read a story literally just before I came to record this that we're going to do a loan bid for Broja, which I kind of knew about. But then the Scamacca, I keep saying Scamacca, quite used to it. Scamacca deal is going to be off if we get Broja. Look, I don't know. As I said at the beginning of the show, getting 2 strikers in would seem rather, you know, wow for us. It seems rather almost far-fetched. So if we get Broja, does that mean we sort of back off Scamacca and just concentrate on Broja? I just don't know. It's just a difficult one to say, really. So with regards to Broja, let's just go through it. You know, is Tuchel playing? No, Broja is now out with the rest of the team in the US. Tuchel has now kind of said he's out here to prove himself. But we also know that all the stories over the week about Broja, he'd rather stay in London. Other teams have been interested in him, etc. And it looks like he would rather stay in London and maybe come to West Ham. Maybe a loan deal in itself would be the best thing for all round. But if we have a loan deal, it won't be with an option to buy the player. So great for the short term for West Ham, you know, getting him in for a season. But then we're still faced with the same problem at the end of next season. Needing to get a striker in, which is why I would like to think that the Scamacca deal is not off. I would like to think that maybe this one is still on the cards. Look, we know that we put in a 33 million pound bid in for him, or over 33 or over 30 million pound. The Sassuolo CEO has confirmed the bid itself. We now know that PSG are out of the running because they've signed Hugo Ekitike. And apparently Juventus, although they might have an interest in the player, won't be able to afford to fund the deal. So we're in the driving seat by the sounds of it. There's still the negotiations going on, but West Ham look like they're ahead of the race with everyone. Look, he's also been left out of 2 preseason friendlies, Scamacca. You know, they had a preseason friendly Sassuolo over the weekend, and he wasn't part of it. You don't keep your players out of the squad if you don't intend on selling them. Alfredo Padula, who's another, I don't know, I'm guessing he's another ITK in Italy, has more or less confirmed that it looks like the player is going to be playing his football in the Premier League next season. There isn't anybody else, as far as we're aware at this moment in time, that has made a bid for the player. So it looks like, you know, we're still in with a shout. Now, look, if we want to do a comparison between the 2 players, between Broja and Scamacca, let's look at them a little bit more closely. Let's start off with the style of play. Look, we know what Broja's all about. You know, we've seen him play for Southampton. He can play as a centre forward. He can play out wide. He can play as part of a 3, which will probably suit David Moyes. He drops deep to provide an option for build-up play. You know, I talked about Onana building up the play from deep. But he's a central midfielder doing that, whereas Broja, as a forward, will drop deep to pick up the ball and start build-up play. He's calm and he's composed. He doesn't rush his attacking play. He uses his strength. You know, he's quite a strong player, holds off defenders. And he can score and he can create. And he's got an aerial threat as well. And he takes on defenders with ease, you know, going out wide. A little bit of the Antonio about him, I guess. And he weighs in with his defensive duties. He's combative, and he's got great burst of pace. So he sounds, with all due respect, he sounds like a little bit of an Antonio type player, doesn't he? 20 years of age, he can only get better. But if he's only going to come out on loan, like I said, what do we then do? We have to go out and look for another player or try and convince Chelsea to sell him to us if he has a good season with us. But what about Scamacca? Look, I'll be honest. I like the player, but I'll be honest. He is a classic number 9. I said this in a show the other day. He's more your typical centre forward, a little bit more like a Haller, whereas Broja is more the Antonio type role. Scamacca is more like a Haller type player, but he uses his physique and his height to great effect in shielding the ball, aerial duels as well. He defends as well. He drops and he defends, some from set pieces. He's part of the team where they're the sixth highest scoring team in Serie A. He's made a contribution to that. And he's also able to play in a 4-3-3, but down the center. You're not likely to see him go out wide. He's going to be the pivot to that 4-3-3. Or, of course, he can play in a 4-2-3-1 position, so he can play as the lone striker. His assist tally is low. He's not like Antonio, who can create goals. But like I said, that's because he is more a striker than he is a sort of a versatile footballer. Look, let's have a look at their stats. Senior career games played, 73, 20 goals, 4 assists. He's missed 4 games through to injury, Broja, over his career, whereas Scamacca at the age of 23, 129 games, 42 goals, 4 assists. But throughout his career, he's missed 17 games through injuries. But you look at the stats for last season, 38 games each. Scamacca's got the best goal tally of 16 goals. Excuse me for that noise. 16 goals to Broja's 9, 1 assist each. And injuries, only 2 missed per player. So Scamacca is a little bit better. You look at the goal, hone down some of these stats. Goals inside the box, not goals, but goals inside the box. 13 for Scamacca. 3 headed goals, whereas Broja has none. Shot accuracy, about the same. Pass accuracy, slightly better for Scamacca. Take on success, much better for Scamacca. So is aerial duel success. And again, ground duel success, about the same. So look, on a par, Scamacca is slightly the better player. And you know what? I'm excited by this player. I'd rather we went out and got ourselves a proper striker rather than Broja's okay, but he kind of hasn't convinced me, to be quite honest with you. So those are 3 out of the 4 players. And then, of course, at the end, we've got Mr. Lingard. Look, I mean, we don't know what's going on, do we? And I know everyone's getting really peeved with this transfer rumor, and we just like it to be settled. Apparently, we're close to it being settled, and let's see how that goes. Of course, Lingard has been putting out cryptic messages on his social media posts. Has he finally decided where he's, coming home and all that sort of stuff? Is he coming home? Is that West Ham? Is coming home West Ham? Who knows? Look, we made an offer. We made an offer probably well before the summer transfer window opened, and he's considering his options. He's been out apparently talking to clubs in the MLS. Apparently, he's spoken to David Beckham's what are they called, Inter Miami. He's also apparently spoken to Wayne Rooney's DC United, and it looks like the player is finally making a decision. I said the other day that if he's out talking to clubs in America, how does that bode with him wanting to be close to home? At least London ain't that far from Manchester. What is it? I don't know. It's not. It doesn't take that long to get there. It's not as if he's across the pond, for example. I just want this to get done, because if it doesn't get done this week, apparently he's got a deadline of something like the 22nd of July, which is only 5 days time. Let's hope so. Let's hope for our sakes, and and for the player's sake, that he actually does make a decision. And if it is West Ham, then it puts us all out of our misery. But I've also alluded to, whilst we're sort of waiting on Jesse Lingard, there are other players out there that are as good as, if not better. And I compared him to another Sassuolo player that we've been linked to, and that's Giacomo Raspadori from Sassuolo in Italy. Look. Okay, Raspadori is still a young player, 22 years of age. He's got 7 years the younger on Lingard. 80 senior career games as opposed to Lingard, nearly 300. 18 goals as opposed to 56 for Lingard. 9 assists as opposed to 35 for Lingard. But look at Lingard's injuries. I didn't realize over the years, 50 days missed, 50 games missed because of injuries over his career, whereas Raspadori only 6. You hone that down again to this season. Games played, Lingard, as we know, bit part appearances, 21 appearances, but a few minutes here and a few minutes there. Whereas Raspadori's made 38 appearances, 10 goals to Lingard's 2, 6 assists to Lingard's 1. Injuries, Lingard's missed 10 games last season. Not that you would have noticed, because he hardly played anyway, whereas Raspadori only missed 4. And again, if you sort of hone that down, shot accuracy, Lingard's got the better shot accuracy, much better, but pass accuracy not far off between the two. Take on success, much better for Raspadori. As I said, he's been likened to quite a number of different players, and he's said he sort of guides himself on Aguero, and ground duel success about the same again. So there we have it. Are we going to end up spending money on 4 players? Are we going to get loan signings? Are we going to get permanent signings? What's it going to be? Could we end up spending £100 million on these 4 players? Doesn't look likely. If Broja comes in, he's on loan, and then maybe we might still go for the other players. Lingard will be a freebie. It'll cost us what, £8 million or something like that, or as a signing on fee. But then that allows us to use the money that we've still got to get Scamacca and to get Onana. Even those 2 alone will cost us roughly about £70 million, with the additional money that we'd need to spend on getting Lingard in, plus maybe a small loan fee for Broja. That's still going to take us over the £80 million mark. Look, I guess we'll find out more as the week comes in, as the week unfolds. Sorry, and I think this coming week is going to be quite a big week for West Ham with regards to getting some of our business done. Let's hope so. Let's put us all about our miseries, shall we? And if it's the first time you're watching this channel, do subscribe to the channel. I'm on as regularly as I can be. I bring you up-to-date news. I'm not an ITK, but what I do bring you is I'll give you a bit more sort of in-depth insight into these players. And I'm not suggesting that I know any more than anyone else, but I give you I hope you go away thinking about the type of players we're going for, their style, do they suit West Ham United, etc. So if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, do hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on, and hit this like button for this video. I'm back on Monday evening with a live show, the West Ham Weekly. Join me for that around about 8 o'clock on Monday night. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.